The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
Hades, Valdez, and the Red Chariot. Uncle Buck. Got too many fucking projects. You know what? I coined the philosophy of buying cars I don't need with money I don't have. It's become the cornerstone of my philosophy for the last decade and a half. Oh well, it's either that or doing drugs, so at least this will keep me out of trouble. Well, at least not financially, but it's the way she goes. I'm doing some upgrades with that one, but I'll get into another video about that later. I just wanted this fucking thing home. I'm moving Hades out of this spot, and this car is going to use that spot for the time being. There's reasons why I'm moving this one out, and I'm going to be shelving this for a while. I'll get another video about that later too. Basically boils down to I should just do an update, but there's reasons why I'm moving this one out, and this one's going back in. That being said, I'm going to park this one away. It's got its own spot now, but it's going to be staying here for the time being so I can get more work done onto it. I don't have to drive fucking half hour just to touch the damn thing. It's right here. Fucking sweet. A while back I was asked how you undo all the emission stuff on these motors. I'll show you how. It's not that hard. It all depends on your reference point as well, what you want out of a car. Because this is going to be an Uncle Buck work car. I don't want anything I don't care to have on the motor that's going to get in the way. AC is going to be gone. All unnecessary vacuum lines going to be gone. All this crap, it's just going to be gone. That's vacuum actuated. That's going to be gone. I'll make that manual and I'll show you how I'm going to do that in due time. This whole engine bay is going to get a makeover. Just for efficiency. If you want AC, you just roll down the fucking window. Now, typically with AC systems you want to drain the Freon, but someone before me did that, so there's nothing there to begin with, so they did that job for me. So I can just remove that without, any issue. You also want to get your a vacuum diagram for your carburetor, because some vacuum lines you need, for stuff like that, obviously, and brake booster and everything. But a lot of it you just don't need, you can cap off, so I already worked on one spot right there. There's a vacuum source that's screwed in the intake. I'm not sure where that went, because it was half cut off and half disintegrated, so I got a cap for it, made with some scrap pieces I made. I can just put a little vacuum source on there and cap it off, or use this for something else as an accessory port. So I'll screw that down there. For starters, should fit. There you go. I can cap that off or use as a vacuum source for whatever I choose to, and probably for if it's constant vacuum, which it should be if it's intake, I'll use that for a vacuum gauge as I tune up the motor when I put the carburetor on there. So if you want to remove it the factor way, this is how you remove the AC system. There, any kids taking notes? Thought you do it the factory way. There, now get closer to working on that carburetor. Get all that crap off to make it a simple engine bay. This is what you gotta do. There, time is money. Sometimes you gotta get up close and personal with these fucking things. But I won that little battle. That's a big vacuum source right there, or a vacuum leak. You just leave that open, your motor ain't never gonna run right. Look at that. Big fucking hole. Well, hopefully this 3/4 plug will fit. Shouldn't need a Teflon tape for this. It's just covering up a vacuum source. See, we cap that off, cap that off. AC's fucking gone. Can put that back together. Wrap that in tape. For now, until I replace this properly. For now, I'll just leave it as is with tape around it. You know, this is a pretty good opportunity to blast off any of the remaining dirt on top of the motor. Because at the last place I was sucking, now I can start blowing. Oh, I gotta set the camera up for this one. Look at that. Could have kept on going with this. Could easily do this for an hour. Just so much crap to blow off. Well, 30 years is a lot to accumulate dust and dirt and all that shit. But, you know, it's a lot better than it was how it used to have been, obviously. Well, I keep having at it. Unnecessary things also mean bottles and tanks you don't plan on ever using. It was already cracked before I even touched it. Now here's the vacuum lines that, you know, snakes somewhere around here, goes around, goes up and down the fender hump, goes underneath, and that's what actuates your highway headlights setup. So we're going to snake this back to its source and figure out what to do with it. So I'm starting with this one here. This goes into this canister that looks like a Folgers coffee can. See? I always call them a Folgers coffee can because that's what they look like. Starting with the hose that connects to the last end of it. I'm going to snake that way. Snake it back to its source and figure out if that's needed or not. And upon the path of following, I'm looking at this, and that's one more thing I can negate with. That's just your cruise control modulator. Basically, it just you set it, and it just holds it at whatever set RPMs or speed you want to be cruising at. we can just do away with that. Don't need that. And as for this line, yeah, we got a union, a diversion block here. Main vacuum source goes where my pointer finger is, right there. Goes into this diverter block. It goes all sorts of directions. So figure what I need to keep and what I can just do away with. So one thing led to another here, and I'm basically underneath the Mercury disassembling the whole assembly that controls the highway headlight, system. So we don't need this. So now, with that out of the way, it's free to flap in the wind. That's what I want for now. You see, what happens is these things are governed by a vacuum actuated piston. I didn't touch the other side yet. The fail-safe is where if you have a vacuum leak, it'll just stay open. At least that way you can still drive even during the nighttime or whatnot. So that's kind of like a fail-safe right here. But that's because it's right there. It won't let these things down unless there's a vacuum source. So if I were to hook this up to, I don't know, the intake of my other motor from the Oldsmobile, it would probably fucking shut this thing closed because it's a vacuum source. Just for example, how these things would work. You're gonna do that little clip. Do that little fucking clip. Not that hard to take off. You can already tell it's basically loose. It just can't go all the way down because this rod's still here. But I'll get that in due time. But this is for your, you snake this, it goes all the way to the junction box or whatnot into a 2-in-1 deal. Now if you can see that, get a better angle. Right there is what I'm pointing at or tapping at. Goes right into that fucking thing. What's on the other side of that deal? Well, it basically... fucking car. Big and long. I can crawl in there. See where it hooks around? Like that. And it just goes into that junction box. I don't know what the fuck it's called. I'm going to call it a junction box. So it requires, and that, vacuum source, constant vacuum source, goes in there. Yep. It's its constant vacuum source. All this is a constant vacuum source. So now that we deduce that, I can either pull it off or pry it off or cut it right there and cap it. Because that bottom one there, where it curves into, the bottom one, that's not needed. So check this out. You've heard of smoke signals, but have you ever heard of rust signals? Yeah, rust signals. Yeah, off to the garbage it goes. So back on top, now I undid the junction box from the firewall. So let's see here. Now we got this, the 2-in-1 adapter. I snipped the end where it does a sharp, smooth bend. Right on the bottom end down there. You backtrack that. Let's see here. This then goes to the cruise control box, and the other end Follow that. Folger's coffee can. Basically, I pull as I follow, that's how you know. At least that's how I get by. Some of these are color-coded, but I don't give a flying fuck about that. Okay, alright. That's how we deduce it. From the passenger end, goes right there. Driver's side, I'm holding on to. Goes on to the Folgers can. So I'm gonna rip this off. Rip this fucker off. We don't need that. I'm pretty sure the screws from underneath, so. Let's see here. Yep. I might be able to get at that without taking the wheel off. I'll get that in a little bit, not important now. Just more vacuum sources that I eliminated. Let's see here. This brake booster. With some cars it just goes straight to the back of the carburetor. But it gets its vacuum source from the main deal right here, which basically goes to the intake. So it's constant vacuum, not ported. Let's see here. This one goes and down there. Got one of those diaphragm deals. I don't really know the fucking specifics of the actual names are called, but you just know what they do, you just can't figure out what they fucking mean. Side note, August 1977, factory. Anywho, so we start with this, figure out where that goes. Alright. Goes onto the top one down here, as I'm pointing. That's the one. Goes to the junction box. So where's the other one go? This one. We'll follow that. It goes in the firewall. Huh. Okay. So backtrack that. Goes to the diaphragm. Well, I'm assuming that could be for the air ducting, because it all needs a vacuum source to, you know, if you want to go to floor vent or defrost, it's all vacuum assisted. So I know what the Valdez is like. That's got a single fucking line going to the back of the motor on the intake. You unplug that, you're just going to get basically on the floor. When you hook it up, you can go anywhere you want, up, down, and middle, top, and bottom. So that being said, I'm going to leave this one alone for now, because if it's just a vacuum source for the HVAC system, it just needs one inlet, bam, right into the motor. So just put a pause on that, because I don't know entirely sure, but I heavily suspect that's just for the HVAC system. Alright, what else do we got here? Bottom one. Alright. Tugging it back and forth. From the firewall as well. That's a tricky one. One of those two is going to be fucking one of those two is from the vacuum actuator to this and to the HVAC system. So coming out of the firewall, it's going to be this or the HVAC system. That was meant to go with that, but well, the only way to know that officially is when the car runs and you hit the switch and nothing happens. Well, then you have to play trial and error and see which one sucks more when you put it on the motor, and if it works, and there you go. If it doesn't, try the other vacuum line. basically you keep plugging the vacuum lines onto the motor till your HVAC system works the way it will. So. Okay, bottom one here. Right there. Yeah, that goes out of the firewall as well. Okay. So, we got two vacuum lines coming out of the firewall here. Right there. And then the other one down there. One's probably for the HVAC, and the other one's just for the cruise control modulator. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Because that's for the firewall as well, but that's just for the highway headlight system that I've successfully deleted. Just forget about that. So the only thing else that would need to be coming through the firewall vacuum-wise would be either just that HVAC or cruise control. So I don't give a flying fuck about cruise control, but it would be nice to have defrost when you need it. So process of elimination is I'm going to negate on those. I'll let that sit. I'll get the motor running. You know, when that's all happy and whatnot, I'll play with the HVAC system. I'll basically have like an open vacuum source, and I'll just take one vacuum line, jam it in there, and play with the HVAC top, middle, and bottom, and see what works, what doesn't. And what one's officially dead, what one's alive. That's how I'll get rid of the rest of the vacuum lines on that. That's the plan, at least. Oh man, almost a day. It's almost a day, anyways. Sun's setting. We got a lot done. Sure. There. Symmetry. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll keep at it till it's running right. At least my way.